And welcome to the Aging and Spirituality podcast. So happy to have you here today. This is where we talk about realizing our true potential in life. And today I've got a great topic about how to accept death in a way that it frees you to really live authentically. I've recently been reading a book by Bronnie Ware, W-A-R-E, about the 5 regrets of the dying. And one of the biggest ones, the first one actually on the list, is that people say they wish that they had the courage to live a life true to themselves. So in other words, not what other people want for them, but what is real and true for them. So it's really being able to get to the end of your life and be regret free. Wouldn't that be a beautiful way to live life? That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you get to a place where you can accept death on a level that you know it is finite, your life, and you begin the journey of finding out what it is that you're here to do that is truly coming from the center of your heart. So here we go. I hope that intrigues you. I'm going to give some interesting points on what you can do to learn how to accept your death in a way that it becomes comfortable and it enhances your life in a way that you become much more productive and much more fulfilled in your own life experience. So about 30 years ago, I had a near-death experience that actually forced me into this type of living that I'm talking about today, which is why I really wanted to talk about it, because I realized looking back how much my life changed, and it really was for the better. Probably didn't feel that way at the time. It was probably challenging, and transformation and change is not always easy. So I remember it with great fond feelings because I got so much out of it. And I guess that's what I want to say to you, is that going through this process made my life so much more joyful. And okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to be looking over here every once in a while because I've got notes here that I want to make sure I don't miss anything. One of the biggest things that I learned after that near-death experience is that I had this very visceral feeling that death was walking beside me all the time. Honestly, I'd be walking down the road, grocery shopping, doing whatever I was doing with my son at the time, who was like 4 years old. And I had this feeling that it wasn't like ghosts or vampires or any of that kind of thing, just this feeling that death was there, and I knew it was inevitable, and I would remember the experience that I had on the other side. None of it was fearful. It was very joyful and peaceful and blissful. And, the messages that I received were so uplifting and life transforming. So that, I think, was an acceptance of my time being really finite here. And it changed how I operated. It made the focus of where my awareness was on a daily basis was very different than before having this experience. So I remember, even though my heart stopped at the time and, sent me to the hospital in the first place with the near-death experience, I remember being on the table and leaving my body, and I realized that, I could be I could be on my way out. And at the same time, I remember walking, and you can read this whole experience in my book called Always Choose Love. But I remember walking through a veil and just having this feeling of delight, like the weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I started to run like a little kid, like, I'm going home. And I was so excited. I mean, that sounds like, I was leaving an awful thing and going to a better place and all of that. Not true. I mean, going to a better place, not leaving an awful thing in any way. I had a son. I was very, happy with my life. And so anyway, I just remember that feeling about being so excited about being able to go home. And then there were a few more steps in that process of that experience. Messages were received, connections were made. And then I remember having this awareness that it was my time to go back. it was like my energy was turned around, and I was like a force field moved me back towards the veil that I had come through. I wasn't unhappy. I didn't have an emotional response to it at all. Just knew that from what it had transpired, I was going to have work to do. And I remember coming back and being on the table and seeing the doctor come at me with a very large needle he was going to put into my heart. And I said, okay, I'm back, don't do that. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation about the whole experience. But it really led me to a place in my life where I had to learn to integrate what had happened to me. It sounds like, people talk about they have an ND and it's, oh, no big deal. Everybody had, lots of people have them, no big deal. No, it's life transforming. It took me, I think probably, I would say like legitimately 30 years to really be able to talk about it. I would say to my spiritual friends, even to my teacher, I don't have words for this. I don't know how to talk about this. And I was often reassured that I would find words, and over time I've is why I wrote my book. It's why I still do podcasts and talk about this kind of stuff, because it was such a transformational time for me. So being on the other side, having that experience of everybody dies at some point, it became very visceral to me. It was a very deep inward feeling, or knowing, a knowing, that's going to happen, and it's okay. And it turned my awareness around in a way that I wanted to focus on what, okay, if that's going to happen, and no matter whether it's 50 years or 10 years or whatever, I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing now. And my focus very much became on what is my purpose? What is my next step? What am I here to do? So it really freed me to be authentic, because I had to go inside and find out what it is, what was unique about me, what were my strengths and weaknesses, what was I here to talk about and to share with people and to help others with. So there you go. Okay, so let's see. Just in case people, sometimes say to me that they really dislike that word authentic. And honestly, when I write it, I have the same feeling sometimes, because it gets so bandied about in ways that nobody really even tells you what it means. But so listen here, the definition of authentic, being authentic, living an authentic life, means that your life is not false. It's not copied off of anyone else. It is genuine and real. And then you need to know how to get to that authentic experience. And that is what I call the Shiro's journey. That is learning to connect to the inner self. All of this I have learned from yoga. I owe everything I have ever said or done to my studies from the Yoga Center of California and my teacher, Ramakrishna Ananda. And this particular near-death experience was a big part of my growth, of moving from being a very will-centered person to being a heart-centered person that can experience bhakti, which I'm sure is probably still an ongoing process. I never know where I am. I just know how I change and how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And, living with my heart open and loving as much as I possibly can has become the mainstay of my life, the purpose of my life. So, okay, so how do you, listener, learn how to accept death at a level that you know viscerally that you are so valuable, you are so loved by God, first of all, and you are so valuable, your life is important, and you want to prioritize what it is that you came here to be and do. You have work to do or you wouldn't be here. So here's just a few suggestions. I'm gonna tell you, I never thought about this like, boy, this is hard, because I'm not going to tell you to go out and have a near-death experience. It's definitely not necessary, because you can learn to connect to your inner self through meditation. Number one tool is meditation. Some people are afraid of meditation, I've learned. I found that uh, very curious when I first discovered it, but it's because the mind can play on so many levels. If you've got, so many levels of thought going on, it can be fearful to try to let go of those all at once, which you do not have to do. You can learn a little bit at a time how to calm your mind and work with your ego in a way that it doesn't get so afraid that it panics and, drops you out of meditation all the time. That's the journey of a beginning meditator. You really learn how to calm your mind, your emotions, your body, and be able to sit still and eventually get past the mind and emotions and connect to spirit. So meditation, number one tool. Find someone that can teach you. The Yoga Center of California has online classes. Go to yogacenter.org. Learn meditation from these people. They know how to do it. They've been doing it for 50 years here in Costa Mesa, California. So I can't give you a better recommendation than that one. Some people are able to connect. I don't know how deeply, but connect into dropping into silence by being in nature. I mean, being by the ocean. They have ways that of listening to sounds, binary beats, that will put them into a place where they can connect to their nature. You can also think about people that were close to you and ask yourself, what would they do differently? What have they done differently if they knew that their time was up? Imagine what that life might have looked like differently from having known them. Or ask yourself, if I die tomorrow, would I have any regrets about what I did not do? That's a good one. If I ask myself that question right now, I'm pretty full in that I am living my purpose and doing the best I can every day. Doesn't mean I reached end goals that, I have nothing else to do, because I think that's ongoing. That keeps going for as long as you're alive. But I'm very happy with the journey that I'm on. I'm very happy with the life that I lead on a day-to-day basis. And you can be too. You can be very joyful and blissful in your connection to your higher power. I call God. Some people don't, and that's okay. Whatever you call it is perfectly okay. So number 2 tip, past accepting that your death is going to happen at some point and that your life is finite. And the second tip I have is to live in the present moment. And I use present because it's a word that a lot of people comfortable with. Eckhart Tolle uses this word all the time, being in the present moment. I think presence is very much the same as being connected to spirit. It's the same experience. But it's an efficient way of saying and describing the process of where your awareness needs to be. Because if you're in the past, I think of my past, behind my head. If you're in the past, you're not experiencing spirit. If you're in the future, you're not connected as well. You have to be in your present moment to be creating your own reality. So being present is very, very important to being connected to your divine or universal source. Using, again, meditation or silence and get into that connection. So you're getting answers to your very deepest questions. You're getting insights and aha moments, things that enlighten you about what you need to work on. Maybe you have character flaws that need to be fixed. Maybe it's just systems that you need to work on to write a book, do a workshop, whatever it is that you feel you are called to actually do. The important part is to really create daily habits that help you stay tuned to your inner self. So I call those my sacred rituals. Meditation is one of them. Doing postures in the morning is one of them. Making sure that I'm releasing stress on every level, mind, body, emotions. releasing stress, because if you're dealing with the dramas of life like that, you're not connected. You're going to have trouble being centered in spirit and channeling, expressing that energy that soul wants you to work with. So, listeners, thank you for hanging in. I want you to use the knowledge of your death as a tool for really living well. Be willing to take risks. You only have so much time here, and it's much more exciting than being complacent. Take risks. Do fun stuff. Have compassion for yourself. Be vulnerable. Show up to receive your own life. And never worry about being perfect. There is no such thing. Set personal boundaries for yourself, for your self-care. That's really, really critical. Learn how to love yourself like you would a best friend. Make yourself your best friend. You must know how to receive, not just give. Women make this mistake particularly. They are often great givers and not good at receiving. You have to be able to receive. Mostly to be able to fill your own cup up first so you can give to others, but you really do need to understand how to receive. Don't forget that, ladies. Time is your most precious gift. So, are you creating a life of regrets or a life of joy? Use that time wisely. Live true to your heart's calling and do not deny who you truly are. I hope this has been helpful for you. See you next week. Big love.